You're strong.
I know.
It's okay. I've got you now.
Just like in the movies.
Welcome to SuperWonder Legacy. I'm Jared. I'm here with Brit. What's up, Brit?
Hello, hello.
And today, all right, we shouldn't have to do this topic more than once because we did something like this episode 2. Well, it was more like refuting arguments against SuperWonder, but a lot of stuff has been happening recently with me and Brit that we were like, let's address this head on. So we've been encountering a lot of really toxic fans on Twitter and the internet. And we're going to talk about that because here's the thing about that. These people claim to be fans of Superman. And I got to tell you, Superman would be ashamed of people like you.
And Wonder Woman, especially
And Wonder
Woman.
Yeah. But it's, again, we shouldn't have to do, it's BS that we actually have to make this an episode topic, but it just got to the point where we were like, I guess we got to. Because you'll see it later, and luckily we bleeped out, we like blacked out and censored a lot of this, but Brit received one of the most heinous DMs I have ever read just for the sin of liking Superman and Wonder Woman, and they call us a cult.
Yeah, that was having, running the Instagram. It's like, okay, you get comments or whatever, and of course people don't read. They just either think that fan art is actual art. They've seen JLU and think that that's what's within comics, and pretty much just Twitter and how you need to know the difference between headcanons and what's actually canon.
Yeah.
But so many fans and even writers are guilty of this when they make their headcanon and pose it as facts.
Tomasi.
Or
but it's like even Jid and shout out to Jid, he has headcanons about these characters, but see, here's where headcanon's good. If these characters don't like, if like DC themselves don't like address, in other words, if they leave holes in there and you could say, here's in my head how I like reasoned how this could link together. I'm like, okay, that's fine. Until DC addresses that, you can kind of maybe take that as canon. But here's the thing. Really what you guys have to realize is that unless it has the official DC logo, unless DC publishes a book, your headcanon is not canon at all. I'm
Right.
sorry. I have to be frank on that.
Right. And the thing with you is, as a fan, seeing the post, it's nothing but vibes. It's nothing but just having fun. And that is how a fan is supposed to be. Like, even with the headcanons, it's still so much fun. It's kind of like it's not taking it serious. It's not bashing other people for disagreeing or saying that this is facts. No, it's just having fun with these characters, as you should, and not taking it serious.
Because these are fictional characters.
So shout out to Jill for
Yeah.
just having such, fun vibes, bringing the fun and the funny, and to show that, you don't have to take this serious, like they're fiction.
Yeah, exactly. And to quote a certain Batman.
Okay, they're talking about fictional characters. Fictional characters.
I felt that was a very appropriate clip to play right about now.
Yeah.
So what Brit and I are going to start off this discussion with is we're going to talk about what Superman, what Wonder Woman, and what SuperWonder mean to us individually. So let's start with Superman. So the thing about Superman is that he represents, it's basically, he's like the ideal of what a superhero should be, partly because everyone takes their inspiration from him, because everyone was, in a way, copied off of him in certain ways. But
Exactly.
he's like the whole thing. He has all these powers, yes. But what he really represents is the idea of hope and the idea that no matter what, everything will work out.
Right. And it's also what people just refuse to accept is that he is a Moses allegory.
Mm-hmm.
He is not this space Jesus. He's not this all-American, yay for America. Even whatever religion you have, he
Mm-hmm.
represented. You can still resonate with him.
Yeah.
But most importantly, he is a Moses allegory, and he is supposed to guide, in the fictional world, and then as a representative of a literal, in the literal world, of just making things better.
Mm-hmm.
He was created by two Jewish boys who wanted to escape the harshness and tell their story as immigrants. And also even that, so many Superman fans can't stand that either. The fact that he's an immigrant. And it's just kind of like, how are you a fan if you don't like how this character was created and the importance of his creation?
Well,
That doesn't
remember,
make sense.
Brit, you summarized it perfectly. These people don't read comics. The comics they do read is just stuff that ends up on those free comic book sites. But for the most part, they aren't supporting these companies and then expect to be taken seriously.
Well, the thing is with the comic sites, yeah. So one of an official artist, he actually said that the companies actually use these sites, and it's kind of like they can't. I guess because some of the older stuff isn't archived even within their company, which is kind of weird because
Yeah. You
as a
think it would
company,
be, right?
you should have everything, archived.
I mean, I'm
But
sure that they have archived the picture of Batman's penis from Batman Damned.
funny. Um, but it's kind of maybe a contradiction because they want you to support the books, go to comic book shops, and spend your money. But at the same time, you are okay with people using the comic sites, which is honestly within this economy. Yeah, I to pay $5 for a comic book that you will only read for like 2 minutes, and you're only looking for certain panels. Like some people, of course, shippers are looking for shipping panels anyway, so they don't really care about the story itself. So $5, that means a lot within this economy.
Not only
So I
that, it's
understand.
$5 for a product where the page count gets smaller and smaller as the price increases. So I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah, so really there is a pro and a con to using these sites. And honestly, I've used them because yeah, you can't find these certain books to buy, or I'm not going to buy a book, when I'm just looking for one specific panel or something,
And
and a reference or something like that.
we'll definitely pick that up later. But back to Superman. I think the other problem with this character is that everyone's so married to the way Superman was when they came in, or like everyone has just seen the Christopher Reeve Superman movie and thinks that's all Superman is. Where if you look at this image from like For Tomorrow, post-crisis Superman is it's kind of funny. You know how people say that like New 52 Superman was an a-hole? That's more post-crisis when you actually read his stuff.
Right. Post-crisis Superman, he was very problematic. I mean, there's no way you want to say that he's this Boy Scout or whatever like that. And sure, he had that certain mentality, but at the same time, he was very problematic, especially Burn. And you can go ahead and
There's a
rant
lot
about
of reasons
Burn.
why Byrne was very problematic. But the other thing is, like, even when you go to Immortal Beloved, I know I said the curse word in front of Brit, but all right, with Immortal Beloved,
Yeah.
what that shows is that he's mentally stuck on as far as he knows, dead woman. I'm like,
Yeah.
what?
And that also one of the contradictions and just the double standard that some of these, quote unquote fans put out is that Superman and Wonder Woman, their mental state
Mm-hmm.
is like it I guess they have to Lois and Steve are crutches basically.
Yes, they are.
And in order for Clark and Diana to have like the stability that they need, they need them as, but they're more so liabilities than anything.
Exactly.
And you have where Clark and Diana will, you know, ruin themselves. Writers throw them under the bus and just make their character seem so weak-willed, like you have Injustice. Injustice wasn't just Clark and Diana being together made
Yeah,
them evil.
everyone forgets what that's not. That's a very simplistic. That's a very simplified way of looking at it. When you actually read the comics, I know, shocker, because I read Injustice. I read most of Injustice, and the thing about it, he gets evil not because he's with Wonder Woman, although this Wonder Woman is evil. This is a very evil Wonder Woman, which doesn't make sense. Brit and I have done an entire episode on Injustice, why it doesn't make sense. But anyway, the point is, this is an evil Wonder Woman. Lois is killed. Okay. Metropolis is freaking nuked. What? That's going to cause anyone to go crazy.
It's Bizzaro Kingdom Come, and we're gonna talk about that later.
Yeah.
But that's basically what it is. And
yeah, go ahead.
And for these characters that are supposed to represent compassion, kindness, and
love,
this strong love and this strong, mental mentality and uphold, such morals, how can and the thing is, we lose people in reality every day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're gonna go through the cycle of grief. You're going to be depressed. You're going to, have this certain angriness. You're going to go through a bit of doubt or, I could have done something. It's things like that. You're going to question yourself. But with Clark and Diana, that goes way overboard with Lois and Steve. I mean, their whole entire purpose is completely thrown out the window. It's like Clark gives up everything. He gives up, he gives up who he is and chooses an identity that it's a complexity that goes within it. But Clark Kent is his identity, but at the same time,
he was sent to Earth as Kal-El, and
yeah,
here's the problem with that. If he was meant to just be Clark Kent, why is he wearing the Kryptonian costume? That's one of the things I really liked about the Snyderverse, is that the costume itself is a Kryptonian like undersuit, so they gave you a purpose for that. But it's like, even with this, it's like, the thing is, Brit, again, and Sam Liu, why has he brought this up when we talked to him? It's the idea that I get that everyone's married to the era of comics that they came into, and that's totally valid. That's fine. But when you straight up ignore, because when people act like post-crisis Superman was this saint, when he wasn't, it humanized him to a degree, but it's like post-crisis is not the Christopher Reeve Superman. If anything, Chris Reeves is more of the pre-crisis Superman. Because also that movie came out in pre-crisis. So it's like, if anything, Henry Cavill is a mix of post-crisis and New 52.
The thing is with humanizing, I can't stand that. They have ruined that whole concept of what that means. Mm-hmm. Clark and Diana are already humanized. Mm-hmm. And the whole grounding thing gets on my nerves. Like, that just really, I can't stand it.
That's what I want to tell people. If you've read Superman, you know he was Superman before he met Lois. So What are you guys doing? But the thing about it is, I read this fantastic tweet, Brit, and it said, and I referenced it last week on the Blood of Zeus episode, but it was like, you know why we still talk about Zeus, Athena, and all the Greek gods? Because here's what humanizing really means. You have these characters go through human struggles, and New 52 did this, and like Superman, Wonder Woman did this as well. When Clark and Diana go through, like, they don't fit in anywhere because of who they are, because of what makes them different, but they end up coming together because it's like, you know what, I finally find someone that's like me.
Right. And yeah, if you can put the gods in a way to resonate with them and a way to understanding them, then the whole argument of the humanizing or they need grounding or whatever, that just gets thrown away.
Mhm.
And it's crazy how when you do refute that, you are ostracized. You
Yeah.
are, called not a true fan or something like that.
Or
And
my favorite, they'll say that's not canon. And I'm like, according to DC, everything is canon. So really, I'm right. So suck it. But
right,
the other thing I want to say is that here's how much Superman means to me. I'm going to allude to this. Brit knows a little bit of what I'm talking about. But when I was very young, I had a very traumatizing near-death experience. And here's the thing. Thinking back on it, I always remember that the reason why Superman was always my favorite is that here's what Superman did. Yes, he's a fictional character, but watching his adventures, it was almost like as dark as it got in my life. Superman was always there to say, you know what, it's going to be okay.
and that is what the character is supposed to mean.
That's the
It's
power.
not
And I always think back to that one page from All-Star Superman where he goes, you are so much stronger than you think you are. I have that saved on my phone because whenever I'm feeling down or like that the world's getting to me, I just pull that up.
right. And again, that is the purpose of the character. It's not boiled down to a love interest or a ship.
Nope.
That doesn't. Clark and Diana are the characters that they are because just themselves. It's not them being connected to a ship, and trying to say that, oh, you can only know Clark and Diana's story through Lois and Steve.
Nope.
No, like
We knew it
that's not how
before
the
there was
story
a Lois,
starts.
and we knew it before there was a Lois and Steve. And here's the thing. I'm glad you said that, Brett. Here's the thing about Superman, Wonder Woman. Their as opposed to like Lois or Steve, Superman and Wonder Woman can maintain their own titles. Granted, Wonder Woman's a little more tricky because she's always struggled to sell comics. But my point is, at least she can carry a comic book. Superman can carry a comic book. When they did for Lois, suck
Yeah,
it, Greg Rucka, it flopped.
right. And the thing with Wonder Woman is because of what she represents.
And
And
actually, that's a good transition. Let's do this.
so what she represents is femininity
Mm-hmm.
to the highest point of what it means.
Mm-hmm.
And she also represents, of course, female empowerment
Yeah.
and equality and respect. But the comic book industry does not want to give that.
No, it
Not even,
seems like here's the problem with the way the comic book industry does female characters because they always do it. And the King Run is going through this. The Captain Marvel comics do this. Not so much the newer ones, but like when Carol first became Captain Marvel, this is why not a lot of people like her. It's because when they write a female character, they browbeat the men. That's not what Wonder Woman is. And that's why 1984 failed among a lot of different things. Where when you look at Wonder Woman 1, or on a purest level, here's what Wonder Woman is that she represents, yes, female empowerment. She also represents the pursuit for just equality between them. She holds up her female characters as well. She, in some ways, and not to the extent Tom King says, but she, in some ways, depends upon her male colleagues. In some ways, Superman, but she's at the point where it's like, let me put it this way. I like to think that she can like so the way I think about Wonder Woman, trying to figure out a way to phrase this, that is what she represents is the truest ideal of what feminism is supposed to be, and that's just like female empowerment, not bashing the man. That's not the way
no.
that works.
What feminism means is equality of the sexes.
Yeah.
It's, I really don't like the 50-50 thing, but basically the, 100% to 100%. You give your all equally.
Well,
And you
yeah.
are
What I meant is just the idea that everyone's equal.
Right. And you want to have the respect, with, say, for instance, if we had the same job,
Mhm.
you don't want to, and that's the thing, even with Lois and Clark. It's like Clark is a reporter, Lois is a reporter, but she is pushed up to be better than Clark.
The
But,
greatest reporter of all time. And I'm like,
but at the same
why?
time, but at the same time, Clark is essentially holding himself back
Hmm.
with his powers,
Hmm.
with, the fact that he can type fast, or the
Hmm.
fact that he can think fast. He tries to repress, so much of his abilities to have that normalcy, but at
Hmm.
the same time, you aren't being, 100% truthful.
Yeah.
And also with Lois, it just feels like, yeah, she is the greatest reporter, only when they say so,
Yeah, because
because
I don't see that brought up that much.
yeah, and it's kind of like she won a Pulitzer,
Hmm.
and it's like, well, that was for talking to Superman,
And
and
yeah, you're done. The other thing is, like, in the Greg Rucka book, do you know what she's investigating? Somehow Lois found out about all the reboots and the crises, and I'm like, how? What?
but that
How?
honestly,
How?
and the thing is that storyline basically just went away so fast.
Yeah, you wonder why no one references that. But now I kind of want to transition. Let's talk about what the coupling itself brings up. Because, and there's a reason why DC uses this couple for the Lovebirds line. It's because when you look at it, it's the strongest man and the strongest woman, both physically and emotionally, the two most inspirational characters in DC. This coupling represents true gender equality.
Exactly. And also just being yourself.
Yeah.
And the fact that so many people boil down Clark and Diana's relationship is being the most popular male character and female character, or but at the same time they want to ship Wonder back.
Yeah,
Batman is popular.
here's the thing: if you really want to go off of who's more popular, Wonder Bat is the worst of that.
Yeah. Or the fact that they're two strong characters. Okay, but at the same time, it's not a physical relationship.
If you actually
And
read the books, it's not that. They play with the whole "oh yeah, she's as strong as me" as a joke, but most of the time it's just because of the Justice Leaguers, those two, as shown in Justice League 12, we reference that all the time because that scene on the Lincoln Memorial perfectly like breaks down in a nutshell what this works, because Superman goes, I can't be close to anyone because of who I am. Wonder Woman feels the same. So they're like, oh, I wish this was a line in there, but if I were writing JL12, I would have Superman turn to Wonder Woman as they lean in, and he would go, I thought I was the only one.
yeah, I mean, that basically what the, do you feel alone type thing,
Yeah.
because Clark, his planet, self-destructed, and then and he's an alien from another planet. So he doesn't actually have that normalcy that just because he grew up in Smallville and, had this normal life in a sense, he still had to hide who he was.
Mm-hmm.
And then with Diana, she, whether you have her as with her clay origin of being the only child on the island, or maybe you do have other children on the island, but she does have this sort of isolation because she's the princess,
And
and
what's actually kind of cool, when everyone thought it was the Clay origin in the new 52, in other words, when they flash back to that, you have Diana being picked on because she was made from clay. So, hey, that works.
exactly. Or, and not only that, but showing that Diana was bullied, you
Mhm.
know, that, if you want to say humanized, but don't you have kids in reality being bullied because they're different?
So
So
was
for
Clark.
Diane, right. So, you know, for them to have those type of challenges younger, and then Diana, she doesn't want to accept being with the gods, of course, because they're dysfunctional. And who actually wants to be, you know, you think it's cool, but who actually wants to be associated with them?
Yeah.
So she feels out of place. Clark feels out of place. So together they can understand that feeling,
Well,
and they
even on
can
that,
create.
what the Justice League issue showed is that also he teaches her how to have a regular life outside of being Wonder Woman the entire time, because this is the one thing where it's like I spent my entire life practicing this. So it's like they teach each other, and she teaches him more to like embrace more of his Kryptonian side. So really, it's part of like
Exactly.
they interlock really well together in that sense.
Right. But how is what is Steve going to teach Diana that she
How,
doesn't
how to
already?
stalk people.
But Julia and Vanessa,
Mm-hmm.
I strongly believe that they teach Diana more, and especially because Diana's story is more female oriented, that Julia and Vanessa are far more important, and just they should have more prominence of
Yeah.
Diana's early years being, you know, in man's world, especially because Julia teaches Diana English. You know, she
Yeah.
understands her culture, so they can go back and forth, and she has a mother figure now, and
Exactly.
you know that not so much as replacing Hippolyta, but in a sense she feels that void. And then as a bonus, she has like a little sister
Mm-hmm.
that also brings in that the family dynamic, but the drama that goes along with it when Vanessa gets older
And she's
and
not
becomes
in love with Diana, Tom King. Where the hell
right.
did that come from?
I have no idea,
I'm
but that
reading that
is
and I'm like, where was this? This guy claims to have read a lot of Wonder Woman to bring this up, and I'm like, the hell is this from?
yeah. Tom King says that he reads a lot, but he reads it to twist it into his own sick ways, basically.
Speaking of twisting,
Um,
so the next thing that Britt and I are going to do, so we summarized a lot of anti Super Wonder arguments, and we're going to go through and refute them because that's fun for us. So the first one is humanity in question. We kind of alluded to this. See, here's the thing about this. When people say human, they are extremely superficial with the whole human thing because they mean, oh, he wasn't born on this planet. But I'm like, yeah, but he goes through the same human struggles we do of like self-doubt, self-acceptance, and being bullied, not fitting in. Same with Diana.
yeah, and the only way they can have romantic feelings is if they are with humans. And it's like, no, that means that every super powered couple from Mr. Miracle and Big Barda, from Aquaman and Mira, um,
Howling Carol.
well, they are basically humans. They just have a ring. So,
True.
um,
Let's see who else.
let's see. Um,
The funny part
Zatanna.
is that the same people that talk about superpowered couples are bad. The same people that ship Diana with Cheetah.
The thing with that is what people want with Diana, and she is a representation of a character that, of course, is embracing and being confident within your sexuality.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the reason why her books have struggled, because so many people want to bring up Marston and his personal, you know, dealings.
Mm-hmm.
And also, yeah, it was within the initial Wonder Woman comics about, you know, the BDSM and stuff like that. But that was truly not the message. It was just embracing, you know, and not hiding.
I mean, that's why
Just
she walks around in essentially a swimsuit because it's like embracing her body.
right. And with honestly, you can ship Diana with anyone because she's such a good character, and you want to have the love that she has.
Yeah,
So
to be
I can
clear,
see.
ship who you want, as long as you're not an a-hole about it. I could care less.
Right. So with the representation of um Diana's queerness, it makes sense. But at the same time, you can't it's kind of like a fine line being crossed because so many people want to stare it into her just being a sexualized character, and also like this, especially Twitter, they want to belittle her as just that, and she's
Yeah,
not.
because she's the girl
She
character.
right.
Also, adding
So
on, here's the thing. Here's why I still maintain that Diana's straight, because DC does not include her in any of the LGBT like representations. So here's a good. I didn't tell you this, Brit. So I was on the DC website, and they had like this list of, like, because it's Pride Month, of all the most romantic LGBTQ moments, like all the great LGBTQ characters. And I was going through it. I thought I'd see Diana and Cassia. Nowhere to be found, because DC doesn't acknowledge that, because it was just Greg Rucka putting it in the book that, as far as I know, is probably not canon anymore, just to like, just because that was in his head canon.
exactly, that is the unfair thing. It's like you put this in, it's just, and it's very ambiguous. It's like it's a kiss on the cheek. So you, in a sense, you're not really knowing what
Well,
that is
it was more on that.
because
There were like and like the flashbacks that they talk about how like they basically imply that Diana sleeps around, and I'm like,
yeah, those
what?
right, those kind of things, you have to really be careful with
Mm-hmm.
how you word those things and how you just explore that. Because again, with Diana, she might be the only child on the island. So,
Which, when you consider the fact that everyone's thousands of years old and she considers them her aunts, I get it. Here's the thing. People will bring up, well, that's accurate to Greek myth and Greek culture. And I'm like, that may be so, but so was the Amazons kidnapping men to rape them, and you guys didn't want that in a Wonder Woman book. So where are we drawing the line for mythologically accurate?
yeah, again, this is a very fine line
Mm-hmm.
to explore just in general of Diana. And also the thing is, I um I saw a tweet that's basically like, oh, so you with shipping her with Cheetah, it's like, oh, so you want her to be like Batman with Catwoman. And it's kind of like, no, see, that's the thing. You don't want this to be a comparison of another relationship. Or
No,
you don't want Diana to be only known for a that relationship, or saying, well, heroes and villains or something like that. Or it has to have this, you can't have Diana's her rehabilitating a villain and thinking that she has to romance the villain.
well,
You know,
it's the same thing with Wonder Bat, where she's like, oh, she could humanize Batman, so she's his nurse.
yeah, you can't put romance into that like that. You have to really be careful, especially again with these characters and what they represent, and in the message that they still supposed to have for kids. You know, you can't have one. And what really draws the line too is that when Wonder Woman was inducted for the UN, and I
Oh,
think she was supposed to represent female empowerment.
mm-hmm.
Well, I, it was a group of women. I think they were working for the UN, but they
Yeah.
basically revoked Wonder Woman's induction because they felt like she was a sexualized character. They
Yeah,
felt
because
like
she walks around in a bikini, and actually, the DC documentary addresses just this.
yeah, and it's kind of like that is why, you know, again, this is a fine line to explore, and at any point you can veer off too far and you miss the point of the character, and then here you go with another situation like the UN and looking at her character as only a sexualized character,
Well, even on
and
that,
we don't want that.
when I was at a con, I was talking to David Finch, terrific artist, supports SuperWonder over WonderBat, so suck it. But I asked him about, because he was in his run with his wife. That's where they Wonder Woman got that cool red and black suit, which I like in small doses. It's pretty cool, has arm blades and stuff. But I asked him what was like the justification for it, and he said basically DC wanted to get away from the bikini costume and put her more in a full colored costume, full covered. And he said the fans revolted so much they reversed it after like 4 issues.
Because I mean, and having her in pants is fine, but
That was
again,
the original marketing for the new 52.
Yeah, for the 52. But Diana is just not that character. She is supposed to be this free spirit, liberated type, character.
Plus,
And
it's mythologically accurate. That's how the Amazons dress, as far as we know.
right, so again, it's a lot of fine line going between Diana as her character just in general. But with shipping and stuff like that, with her queerness, you just have to be very protective of that, and you have to understand what you're doing. Kind of like how even Tom Taylor with his Dark Knights of Steel, having her with Kara, not Kara.
It's not. I think her name is like Vara or something.
It's
The point
Zayla,
is, the
I
point
think.
is, yeah, it's that. The point is, it's Supergirl.
Yeah. And one of the it was a couple of articles that came out, and it was like, oh, she's with the girl version of Superman. And it's basically like and it was basically like, okay, if you put her with Supergirl, she can be with Superman. It was kind of like,
Yeah, it's kind of like that. And by the way, Elseworlds the perfect way to explore that. If you really want to make Diana bi or full on lesbian, that's fine. Do it with Elseworlds because it worked. And this is what I said the very first time I did a Super Wonder versus Wonderbat debate. With Elseworlds, it's a different animal entirely, because you can twist the characters as much as you want. Lord knows Tom Taylor does a lot of twisting of these characters, but my point is,
right.
like, the same rules to in-continuity don't apply, and that's why DC allows them to explore that, because it's like it's not in continuity, so we could still go with that. But the other thing is, like,
yeah,
and let me put it this way on the queerness. Here's the unfortunate truth: DC as a company is never going to acknowledge that, because here's, from a public perception, the way our society is, the 3 main characters have to be able to like appeal to the largest demographic, and that's Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman. When you say Wonder Woman's bi or lesbian, it significantly limits the audience, and Wonder Woman does not have that big of a platform. There's a reason why they had John come out as bi instead of Superman, so they could still get the Superman as bi headlines, but it's not Clark.
Well, even okay, that is the perfect example with the issue. When Greg Rucka had his interview and, was saying that she is a queer bisexual character, you saw all the tweets, and it was basically, again, making fun of the Amazons being, only women on the island. And it wasn't so much as accepting, it was more just making a joke out of the character. You don't want that. Then when they had the PR stunt, and even Tom Taylor, he basically admitted that it was a PR stunt, that with John coming out, and it said Superman comes out as bisexual. It didn't clarify that it was Superman's son.
I noticed that, and I'm like, okay, that's
so
fun.
they wanted very much a PR stunt, and that pretty much ruined Superman's character image for a while with saying just Superman, because again, these characters are worldwide. It is more than
even
just
with
Twitter.
Aquaman, even Jackson Hyde, they did a thing where they had him share with Aquaman, and then they had him come out as bi. So I'm like, yeah, I see what you're doing, DC. And honestly, I'm a straight guy, but honestly, that's offensive to me, because what that communicates to me is that you're using queerness as a marketing stunt. That's what it is.
Yes, and that again is why you have to be careful with Wonder Woman. She is a character that represents everyone. It does not matter your race, your ethnicity, your age, your sexual orientation, and Superman and Wonder Woman as a couple too. I've had with, again, this is going with the Instagram, so many queer couples. And the thing is, and that was so inspirational, especially, during Halloween and people are dressing up, or it's a wedding and or a proposal. And this couple, they I think it was back in 2014, they rented out a comic book shop, and it was for his surprise proposal or their wedding announcement, and they used the Justice League 12 cover as their proposal
Well
or
done.
wedding date, and it was all over the comic book shop, and it that showed how Superman and Wonder Woman, even if it's a man and a woman, but it still resonated with a queer couple.
Because it represents, be whoever you are, be your true self. And that's why Wonder Woman works for Clark, because with Lois, he's always going to be ignoring that Kryptonian side, a part of him. With Wonder Woman, it's like, embrace both, because you are both. You are Clark Kent because that's the way you grew up, but you're also Kryptonian, so embrace both of that.
Yeah, and another thing is also, I think you might have this when we show a few of the comments, but saying that Superman and Wonder Woman is too straight of a couple.
I do have that. We'll get to that one. We'll get to that one. And that was a very cringe argument. I'm like, I get you're doing this for Twitter points. That's what a lot of what I've noticed. A lot of these tweets, it's like Twitter points, but it doesn't work. But anyway, moving on to the next one, the disruption of the Trinity concept. It makes Batman a third wheel. They're sibling coded. Well, sibling coded. Someone tell that to whoever the hell drew, to Jen Bartel when she drew Wonder Woman 800, because they are not holding each other like siblings in that. I'm sorry. Right. This is not a John Byrne comic book.
Right. When I see that, it is so funny to me, because I'm kind of like, they have been, basically cuddled and kissing and having babies, or even in since pre-crisis. So to say that they are sibling coded, if you don't like a ship, just say that. You don't have to, because that idea is just so weird to me, with saying they're siblings. And they Brit, do not act like siblings.
I got a great comment for you. You ready? This showed up. It was put in by Josh Jones on our SuperWonder Children episode. It came out two days ago, so I wanted to read this. It's actually apropos that you bring this up. It says a lot that there are probably more SuperWonder children in the multiverse than children of Clark and Lois. It's amazing how true that is.
Very much true. Even if, they've had imaginary stories of, these one-off random dreams of Lois and Clark, but yeah, pretty much Clark and Diana have had the most kids, even more kids than Diana and Steve.
Well, yeah, besides that, Diana and Steve was just that one girl in Christ and Infinite Earths. But and people will bring up, but Diana, because someone brought this up when I was talking about it on a live stream. Oh, wait a second, but Diana's not, but Kryptonians and Amazons aren't necessarily like compatible biologically. And I said, Diana's different because either she's made of clay and brought together by magic of the gods, so magic, or she's the daughter of Zeus, also magic, but also a demigoddess. So the rules apply differently to Wonder Woman than it applies to someone like Lois Lane, who, even if you take away his powers, I'm sorry, they're biologically incompatible because Kryptonian DNA. So, Brit, this is why Connor Kent is part Lex Luthor, because Kryptonian DNA is notoriously unstable. There you go. It's in the freaking comics. And I have a big problem when Tom Taylor tries to say that John Kent is stronger than Superman. And I'm like, no, he's not, because the very fact that he's half human and not a pure Kryptonian shows that.
And that's why, going back, but this ties in, of saying that Superman and Wonder Woman represents eugenics.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's kind of like, okay, they're kids. I think the only kids that we've actually we have seen their powers, but it's not glorifying them as like these messiahs. Jonathan um is glorified as a messiah, as better than even Tom Taylor had Diana say that, when John gets older, he's going to lead the heroes and be better than their generation or something like that. Tomasi had Batman say that John is going to grow up to be stronger than Clark, who is a purebred Kryptonian just because he has human DNA. So when you
I'm
say
sorry,
that,
that doesn't work, and that's almost like you're trying to say that again. That this Tomasi we're talking about, so probably this is again. This is what annoys me with most Superman writers. They ignore the Kryptonian side, or in the case of Byrne, or Tomasi, crap on it, and I'm like,
right,
excuse me.
for the human side and for Lois to be like this human, in a sense, they try to treat her as a goddess or something
They try to treat her
because,
like Wonder Woman. Oh gosh,
right,
Brit. So I was on my friend Robert's show and I had to review with him the Claremont Wonder Woman, Superman Wonder Woman book.
yeah,
That is some of the worst stuff I have ever seen. They
yeah,
turn Lois into Wonder Woman, and Diana's a Nazi in that universe.
yeah. And I
What?
mean, they will tear Diana down for Lois for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all about the fact that they just don't understand her character as, like I said, the true embodiment of female empowerment. The
And you know
true,
what's yeah, go ahead.
the just this true female, and she's not relying on Clark to have relevance. Um,
Yeah,
Lois,
look this way: the Wonder Woman movie was one of the highest performing DC. It did better than the Superman movie. By the way, I want to tell you this. So my friend that runs my site, my website, Tyler, not a comic book fan whatsoever. He told me, I thought Superman and Wonder Woman were always a couple, and I'm like,
well,
because they
yeah,
work that well. That's most people think that. Isn't that funny how that works? And wasn't that more or less like one of the like intentions behind Wonder Woman?
yeah. She was first. She was just to be the counterpart of like, here's Superman, this saving damsels, being this strong man. So what Marston was inspired to have, why not a female that shows that a woman can be independent, that she can save people,
Yeah,
and this is and it was inspired by the women in his life, regardless of his, again, marital dealings. It's still the fact of he was inspired by these women are just as equal, just as smart, respected, than me,
yeah.
as me.
So, by the
And
way,
so,
going, I had to transition to this. I figured you would enjoy this, but yeah, it's essentially this. Now we don't mean all Superman fans. I want to be clear on that. We're just talking about the ones that we have interacted on Twitter. It's like they treat it like, because you know why their favorite era of DC is post crisis, and then it's like it's the idea that Clark is who I am, Superman is what I can do, and I'm like that those words I think have caused the most character damage to Superman.
yeah, because essentially you are, again, downing his alienness and making it out to be that if you aren't American, you just won't be accepted. But if
Mm-hmm.
you, even as an immigrant and a refugee, if you accept the American ways, then yeah, you will be accepted and you get a free pass. And pretty much that has been Superman's character since in 1980, what, six, when
Mm-hmm.
Post Crisis uh, came about. And honestly, this is the problem with the fans, is that they think that Superman was created in 1986.
Yeah, he was, and he was created in 1938. And it's kind of funny. They crap on the New 52. If you actually read it, that's the original Superman.
Right. And they call him an a-hole and stuff like that, but it's
He
kind of like,
wasn't.
have you, yeah, you definitely haven't read Golden Age Superman because he was much worse. You could not, honestly, if you are comparing New 52 to Golden Age, it, they, of course, he is a modern version, but they have completely watered him down just a little bit of how ruthless, Golden Age
Or
can really
post
be.
crisis, because post crisis is one of those guys where if you bothered him, if you were committing a crime, he's like, "Oh, I can't believe I got to deal with this. Oh my gosh." He would basically act very put off about it. I'm like, according to your logic, that's not Superman either.
He is post crisis is very reactionary. It
Mm-hmm.
feels like at some point he doesn't want to be Superman, and even to a point where the fans are saying he should retire. He should grow old with Lois and stop being Superman. And honestly, now that they have John, it's like, yeah, move, uh, push Clark to the side and let John take over. But honestly, they've
John can't save
tried.
a book. Here's the thing.
Yeah,
They had the opportunity. Had Tom Taylor not multiple times wrecked the character of John throughout his line, I think they had the opportunity for that to be possible. But the problem with what happened, what DC has done with John is that they have poisoned the well so much that no one's going to even give John a chance as a character.
but the thing is, John, his inception was basically to be a super son with Damien
Yeah.
as Damien's playmate. That's it. It wasn't really beyond that. And then when 5G came about, it was because turning him into Superman was because they wanted Clark to become a dictator. And I believe it
Mm.
was because Lois died. And so he
So
was going to
basically,
become a dictator.
injustice.
Yeah.
Wow.
And honestly, a part of me wanted to see that because it shows that in canon, Diana is nowhere to be found when Clark becomes a dictator.
Yeah,
But it's the
because
fact
do you
that
know where she was at that time? All right. After death metal, she died and was brought to the beings that manipulate the universe, and she was offered a seat on their little council. So she traveled throughout the earth and was previewing the universe. They even said John is destined to be a dictator at some point, but so then she just left, and so then she turned it down, said no, I have my place with them. Then we get the Clunrad run where she was in Valhalla.
yeah, so they all basically turn into dictators at some point.
For
So
the most part. And remember, and the thing is, in the Injustice comic books are just an excuse to have that fighting game. Because when you read it, Diana is played off, and we'll see it later in the PowerPoint presentation because I have that. It's the idea that she played the temp. She's basically Cersei. Again, Brit and I have said it. It would have been the greatest reveal ever. They could have salvaged this if they made it where Diana was kidnapped and was pre the story happening. Let's say from year one and on, before Superman kills Green Arrow, in other words, when he's still redeemable, Cersei switches places with Diana, and this has been Cersei the entire time. You could have salvaged that, because can you imagine the reveal that would have been? You can even
that
have
honestly
it.
would have made so much more sense.
You can even have it because there was a year 4, where it's just the Greek gods. You could have Zeus show up and go, Cersei, stop impersonating my daughter. She turns back into Cersei, and then you can imagine that. I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah, but
They won't.
NetherRealms has had that problem with the Mortal Kombat franchise of their character Sindel. She was at first manipulated and brainwashed. Um, and the whole story since the beginning of Mortal Kombat was that her daughter Katana was trying to save her and, basically bring her back to who she was and avenge her father. But now they've turned the story into Sindel has been the one manipulating things all along, and she's just this evil person who never liked her daughter, and she is the one that killed the father and stuff like that. It's like, no, that is not the character. Why are you ruining this character that
Mhm.
had so much empathy and sympathy for years, and now you want to turn her into the villain? So the villain, now you want to sympathize with him. And it's kind of like, no, that's not what you do with these female characters. You always, these companies and writers or whatever, is like this chauvinistic type thing of wanting these male characters. They have to be manipulated by a woman
It's the
to make
whole
it seem like,
it's the whole Samson and Delilah thing, which I'm like, stop with this trope. We could see through it already. And it's like when I first played Injustice 2, because that's when they really in your face said like Wonder Woman corrupted him, and I'm like, oh my, I'm like, okay, so what you're telling me, because Injustice 2, if you didn't read the comics, is the one where it's more like she's a villain, she's a bad person. I'm playing the game, and I'm like, what the hell was that?
yeah, it's really just turning it all around that Diana has been the main villain all this time.
Speaking
And
of disrespecting Wonder Woman, to refer to episodes two episodes ago.
yeah, and I just, that is pretty much what fans want. They want to disrespect Wonder Woman just in general. And it has nothing to do with even injustice. Like I said, that is why you have to protect her character with any storyline that you do.
Yeah, Tom King.
Even from, right, having her eat rats and
And say,
stuff.
I think I liked it, Steve. And I'm like, what? Because here's the funny part. Brit sends me like a few of the pages every now and then of the run to kind of show me, oh, can you believe he did this? So I picked up the issue 9 just because I liked the cover. It was a Step and Saja cover. I liked it. She's holding up the world. So anyway, I'm flipping through it. And then I get to that line where she goes, I think I liked it, Steve. I'm like, it's way worse than Brit said.
And it's also the fact that she, like, she's not, if you want to break Wonder Woman, it's not about Steve, and it hasn't been for decades. How to break her, quote unquote, is showing her, all of her friends and loved ones, in a way of, in a sense, doubting her, or she feels like she's failed her mission. Like
Like
in New 52.
sacrifice.
Yeah. Like in New 52. Um, you remember the Deathstroke book?
Yes. My
Well,
favorite.
so Diana and Slade, they go into these portals, I think, in separately.
Oh, the dream
So
dimension. I remember this.
yeah. So Slade sees his kids, and they are talking him down and saying how he's a bad father and failed them and everything like that. And with Diana, she felt like she failed because of being the god of war, and how that really tormented her, that she will one day be consumed by it. And and I think London was basically on fire and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And Clark showed up, and he looked like he was turned into a zombie or something.
Oh, okay.
And just making her feel that she's doubted herself. And then Hippolyta, the same thing. So you have these moments where the most important people in Diana's life is really with, honestly, it was post-crisis and New 52. And even for Clark, Diana has been his moral compass.
Not only that.
And
all right. Did you ever read Forever Evil?
yes.
All right, so there's a tie-in to that.
Much, but yeah.
So a little context. At the same time as like the Justice League book is going on with Jeff Johns, Jeff is also writing the Justice League of America book. It's the idea where like Amanda and Steve created a Justice League to counter our Justice League. So anyway, in the tie-in for that, so the way that the crime syndicate get rid of the league is they make everyone get sucked into Firestorm's little power matrix. So Stargirl's in there, and she's going through a journey. She's trying to find the way out, and Martian Manhunter is guiding her. And each of these Justice Leaguers is in a prison of their mind, of their biggest fears. Diana's is she's in the middle of a war against the Amazons and the man's world. And if she sides with the Amazons, Clark dies. If she sides with man's world, Steve dies. I may have those two switch, but anyway, she's caught in this moral quandary, and she goes, I don't know what to do.
Right. And honestly, the thing is, Diana's Steve.
I know it's Steve.
He's so unimportant to me, and he hasn't been important to Diana, because what they do is, if he dies, and this pretty much goes with Wonder Woman 84 too. She basically sacrificed who she was to bring him back to life within somebody else's body and all of that. But it's the fact that
in a body that's possibly LGBTQ. So that's right. Effed up on a lot of reasons.
So with her having this wish, and her wish is based on a man, that is just going so far against her character. And just with a romantic relationship period, to make it seem like her morality and her mental state and her only way of, and honestly, how Tom King tried to frame this, it didn't work. It didn't show how they are supposed to be this in love couple, because Steve didn't do anything. Diana was just talking.
Thing. When I talked to Comic Story, and he agreed with that, because a Comic Story was supportive of the Tom King run in the beginning, because it was like, okay, it's doing something interesting. Then it doesn't go anywhere, and then he admitted Steve doesn't do anything.
Yeah, he's not actually, even if it is in Diana's mind, even with their mind, is something that person could help you with. Steve was just standing there asking her questions, and it was basically her giving the answers. If you was actually showing them in love, you would have shown a flashback or something of Steve giving her advice. Even the part where Clark is like, she within her mind, they're sitting in front of the Hall of Justice, and she sees Clark, and while Steve is whining about how like basically he's the one that wants confirmation from her of his importance, she's smiling and waving at Clark,
not even paying Steve attention. I'm like, she's like,
right. So if you really want to show this epic romance or whatever, and that's the thing with Lois and Steve, is that these writers do a lot of talking within interviews and have the characters talking, but you don't actually show what makes this relationship compelling. And having this,
referring back to that Comic Story interview when I talked about Lois, because I brought up about how I don't like her. I'm very obvious about that. Even he agreed with me, because he's like, yeah, the problem with Lois is that because she's not super powered, there's not a lot they could do with her as it relates to Superman besides be the damsel in distress. And that's truly where my hatred of this character started, Brit, because I would be reading comics. It got to the point. I get it's a standard thing, like Superman always saves people, but it got to the point where I didn't care if she was ever in danger, because I know the Superman writers and editors don't have the balls to kill Lois. So I'm like, why should I care?
I mean, what really got me was shout out to Jordan.
Hell yeah, dude.
Comes with receipts, like a lot. And there was one panel that he shared from the Aquaman Drowned event.
Yeah.
Of Clark saying that he saved Lois, and the way it's written is written in a condescending way, but it's like he took Lois all the way to the fortress to save her, one person, and he knew that meant sacrificing hundreds or thousands of people, of innocent people. And it's not just adults, of course. It's kids too.
Children. Compare that to our world's at war. He left the other Justice Leaguers in space to get Diana out because there were already Leaguers there helping the injured. So he was like, they got this. I got to get her out. But
Right.
see, here's the other thing. You could argue, Brit, actually, that being with Lois separates Clark from humanity more. Isn't that funny?
It does, because he essentially he has to choose between, should I be normal and just like basically hate myself for being Superman and this alien from another planet, or do I embrace it? And that means no time for Lois. And that was addressed in Our Worlds at War, because Lois was whining and saying how she needed her husband. She needed Clark instead of Superman. And it's like, okay, we're in a a hell pit right now of trying to save the world. You can't have me if the world, perishes.
Yeah,
And
the whole world is in danger. This isn't like the Joker shows up. No. The entire planet is gonna literally explode.
yeah. And then you have Tom King, of course, trying to be romantic and have Diana say that she stopped like this fight or pursuing terrorists to make out with Steve.
I'm like, no,
Yeah,
Diana would never do that. Compare that. I'm going to rewind a little bit to a little panel from Superman Wonder Woman where the world always comes first. She said, the minute that stops happening, we know we have failed as a couple. So thanks, Tom King, for giving me more ammunition against Steve.
right. So when you say, and all of this ties in together, when you say that they ground Clark and Diana and give them their connection to humanity, you are making them such dysfunctional, cold-hearted, selfish beings, honestly, in compared to how when they are together or even just friends, and that was a focal point within post crisis, is that Clark couldn't be emotional. He couldn't actually go to Lois and truly like share how he was feeling with her. She couldn't understand that. So he bottled it up. He would, be whiny a little bit and go to the Kents for advice, but it wasn't that true truth of what he needed.
And
So it
by the
was
way,
always,
Brett, I got an idea.
of course you did.
More on that later, but I think you're going to like this one. But yeah, to that point, it's like even with the Kents, I'm glad you brought them up, Brett. The whole Clark being with Lois is what connects him to humanity ignores the contribution that Jonathan and Martha Kent got into Clark. Even in the Byrne run, he was Superman long before he met Lois because he was raised by John and Martha Kent.
That and the fact that just that his to say that he's not Omni-Man,
Oh.
it's like he has this normal family, but deep down he is just waiting to become a dictator or something like that.
Yeah, I'm like, wait a second here. Are we reading the same Superman? Are you sure you're not reading any Injustice prequels that may have come out?
Right. And with the Kents and with New 52, my bad. When Justice League 14, when Clark takes Diana to the diner and he says, these people around, this is why I'm Superman. I'm Superman to protect, the Smallvilles around the world. It wasn't just, making the world small into one person. And I have seen that where it says, well, his only reason of protecting the world is for Lois to be saved, so that is why the world is saved. No, because the Aquaman drowned crossover just made us realize that he will sacrifice the whole world just for Lois to be saved.
Well, not only that, going back to Immortal Beloved, this guy has an unhealthy obsession with this one woman. It's kind of funny going back to Aquaman Drowned, that actually it kind of affects his job.
Yeah. And then you have where he it just seems like they want to have this. It's a very twisted romance, and you know, everyone else, every couple has its issues. You know, you see Batman and Catwoman,
Mhm.
how if he's with Selena, if he's happy, he can't be Batman.
Which that's false,
Um,
but
yeah,
okay. That was another Tom King thing beyond the fact that that Batman is his suicide, which I'm like, the hell is that from?
right. That other couples just they don't give them that sort of attention, but they have pretty much a healthier relationship than Clark and Diana have with Lois and Steve. Because, like I said, their morality, their mental stability and everything should not be basically hinged on the fact of being romantically linked to just these people, just
Exactly.
one person.
But
That
even on this,
really,
see here's the thing. Here's why the Charles Sewell book is so good, and the new 52. It showed that. See, here's the thing. Even with this, because in the Superman Wonder Woman book, that whole the Justice League book, the whole conversation is that they feel distant from humanity, which they've always done that. And then, if you notice, what are some of the dates that we see Superman and Wonder Woman going on? It's like they take her to a dance club among humans. So it's like if they're distancing from humanity, their dates should not be doing very human things. And even in this, even in this panel from Superman Wonder Woman, Diana's like, yeah, and this is also why Wonder Woman's so great. He says, we Amazon celebrate our uniqueness, our power, and the rest of the world be damned. That's what she brings to Clark. Because the idea is like, yeah, you're Clark Kent, but you're also Superman. Embrace that and celebrate that.
yeah, is we can be, or even with Throne of Atlantis, the animated
Mm-hmm.
version, Clark himself says it's not hiding, it's just blending in. So it's blending in with the whole world is unique and we're unique. And so we're blending in with the worldwide uniqueness. And there shouldn't be anything wrong with that. That is exactly why I can't stand that 180, 360 or whatever turnaround of Clark's attitude for Death of Superman,
Oh
because he
God.
goes into actually hiding. Like the exact thing that they talk about of no, it's not hiding, it's not, and turning the thing of wearing the glasses. They thought that it was more of a fun thing. But for you to turn it into this antagonistic type thing, and that he feels like I want to be just as human, and don't call me Clark or whatever he did with Diana, it just seems so out of character, and just this way of whatever you say accuse Clark and Diana's relationship, examine the relationship he has with Lois and
Exactly.
Diana's
And by the way,
relationship
Britt,
with Steve.
you mentioned that the Death of Superman movie, so I have to do this.
Why did you say that name?
Yeah, I'm sorry. But when, like I said, examine those relationships, and the exact things that they accuse Superman and Wonder Woman's relationship is pretty much in story what Lois and Clark's and Steve and Diana's relationship actually is doing.
Yeah,
And
exactly. So
it's
now,
not helping the characters at all.
no, it's not. And then transitioning to, all right, so here's the whole Injustice Bizzaro Kingdom Come thing, because apparently they simplify injustice to just because Clark is with Diana, he turns into a genocidal dictator. And I'm like, I don't think we read the same Injustice comic. Or I read the comics, you didn't.
That, and the fact that, and you're showing it, how they say that, yeah, it'll be interesting if they turn Diana into like this she's this temptress, or that she's a Cersei or a Maxima.
It says
um
here, love Diana as Clark's corruptor. And I'm like, that shows you the regard that they have for Wonder Woman.
so basically, so the tweet that this is from, that this comment is under, is saying that Clark and Diana in a relationship is a lack of respect for them as characters. But yet you have a comment saying that, yeah, Diana should be Clark's corruptor. Does that not compute as a contradiction?
Well,
Of
it's also the fact that a lot of these people just want Clark to Diana to be with Batman, and we all know that's disrespectful.
Batman doesn't do ships.
yeah, even with that, it's kind of like even okay. We need to go back to the Trinity thing because I have one more thing to say about that. So with the Trinity, it has always been world's finest. Batman and Superman as the bromance or whatever like that. And then Wonder Woman is added. But she, and we see it even present day, that she's not respected as a Trinity member. And the Trinity as a concept is very empty because it's nothing more than a PR stunt. It doesn't have any type of substance. When you have like Trinity crossovers or like the Trinity books, it shows how this concept really doesn't have value as the relationships that they're supposed to have. And the only value that it showed was in Kingdom Come, when you have Clark and Diana on the same team as essentially, the mother and father role. And then you have Batman come along as the uncle. That is how the Trinity works. So to say that Clark and Diana's relationship disrupts the Trinity, first of all, Batman doesn't need Superman and Wonder Woman.
No.
He's a solo character.
Sales-wise, he does not need them.
Yeah. Batman and Robin is, more important than the Trinity. Even with the world finest, it's still Batman and Robin as a duo.
Well, not only that, it's like if people saying, "Oh, I want Batman to be happy." The minute he's happy, he ceases being Batman, and I guarantee you that's why DC will never. They'll never have Batman be happy because otherwise that's his cue to stop putting on the cape and cowl.
Right. So, and the thing is with this whole Trinity thing, it only comes up when it's about Superman and Wonder Woman's relationship. They even have this SuperWonder bat thing, and it's kind of like they're supposed to be a trio, and it's like, no, that has not been a thing. You can have the world finest, you can have Batman and Wonder Woman, even though Batman and Wonder Woman's relationship is very much lacking. They have like the history is so small, and it is no significance to their character. It's honestly just the connection.
With Brit, it was from the Justice League cartoon.
And even that, if you want to bring up that, a lot of people are seeing how Diana was mischaracterized.
Well, not only that, Susan Eisenberg herself said, no, it wasn't supposed to be, they were never supposed to get together. It was just supposed to be like fun flirting. Even Zack frickin' Snyder, when he was talking about it, he's like, yeah, it's fun to play with at times, but when you actually do the math on it, it's not going to work.
And that is the thing. Like, why are you doing it when Diana isn't a character that you can do that with? Not like that.
The way I took it from Zack, because I took it as more Zack just showing that Bruce Wayne flirts with people, because he flirts with anyone. Let's be honest, he does when he's Bruce Wayne. So that's why in like the Snyderverse, I kind of excuse the Wonder Bat stuff because I'm like, yeah, he would do that with Selena or Zatanna, so it's not anything new. But my point is, with the Snyderverse, with like BVS, I just took that as like Bruce flirting with a woman, and let's be honest, he does that a lot. So it's not like because Zack never intended for Batman and Wonder Woman to get together.
Right. That's the thing, is that Diana isn't. She may flirt, but the way and it's really just the Batman fans and the Batman writers they take that flirtation as in like it's just a one-sided thing. Oh. And Diana is like this cheerleader and it's just bat god type thing. And that
did you ever hear about the screen test for Gal Gadot and Ben Affleck? Do you know what that was? Wonder
I
Woman shows up and is berating Batman, calling him a drunk.
Oh wow.
I'm like,
So
I gotta find a clip of this so we can watch that. But it's like my heart broke when I saw Phil Jimenez say about how like he wants Wonder Woman with Batman because he wants Wonder Woman with the bad boy, and I'm like, you wrote
yeah,
one of the most iconic Wonder Woman runs. What are you talking about?
yeah, that whole thing of wanting Diana with a bad boy to nurse, again, that just goes against who she is as a character. She is not supposed to be with the bad, exactly what the Amazons fight against.
And actually, you know what's kind of funny? By their logic, Wonder Woman should have been able to nurse Superman to being not a dictator anymore. But again, they ignore the fact that this is I want to put emphasis on this, evil Wonder Woman.
Yeah. So, just all in all with the Trinity, it it's not a concept that you really can take serious, unless it is very much like Kingdom Come. And like I said, it's Superman and Wonder Woman as the mother and father, and Batman as the uncle. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
And even that is really putting even more substance than it actually has been. But
Mm-hmm.
that is how it goes.
Mm-hmm.
So when they say about the disruption of the, like I said, the Trinity, it's, you wouldn't say that if it's the world finest, because Diana isn't a part of the world finest, and they are
Mm-mm.
fine with that. You wouldn't say it's disrupting the Trinity if they try to have Batman and Wonder Woman. So why is it something so wrong with Clark and Diana being together when that has been their dynamic? It's been the world finest. It's been Clark and Diana essentially as a power couple, and Batman and Wonder Woman really, unless you want to change the um the Trinity dynamic, how Christopher Priest has admitted, and even Greg Rucka admitting that they want to change the Trinity dynamic because Diana doesn't have a connection with Bruce. So that's it. But of course, those types of changes are very much swept under the rug after a while, and it doesn't work. But yeah,
Exactly.
so
But
going back to
anyway, the other thing I want to say about this Injustice Kingdom Come thing, and this I learned but through you. I didn't know that people thought that Magog / Wonderstar was people thought that was going to be their kid from the future.
well, the way he came about, and Tomasi, he did it on purpose
Oh,
because the way the solicit came out for that, and the fact that he has like this gold armor and he has a W on his armor,
mhm.
and also his powers look very much like sun powers or whatever, you would think, yeah, he's a combination of Clark and Diana, um, pretty much like an Apollo 2.0. So when, that came about, people were asking questions. And then Tomasi, he pretty much said it like no type of, basically shot himself in the foot and put his own foot in his mouth when he said, "I'm gonna burst this bubble right now," is that he's not their kid. And it's kind of like, well, any type of
Thanks for killing
excitement,
any hype.
right? That was basically the hype killer of the story, and that's pretty much why the book dropped, because so many people were excited for um a new storyline to, if, because it's the speculation of Clark and Diana having a future kid was since the beginning of their relationship. You had the Mad magazine, like that
Mhm.
cover uh, of them holding a baby. Um, you had the idea of Donna coming along with Charles. Um, and then you had, I think it was within the Justice League or Lex or something, talking about what if they had a baby. So with thinking, okay, and then his name is Wonder Star.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's like, that really matched up. So with having this character, And a little bit it did make sense for him to be their kid, maybe, yeah, and with having Cersei, he's corrupted or whatever. But to use Magog, I guess, as a hyping point, because of course Clark and Diana are together in Kingdom Come, so you reference Kingdom Come. You thought he was going to score brownie points with the fans? No, because you just made that again with no substance whatsoever.
Speaking of no substance, how about the bandwagon hate that people get? And I love when some people say Dan Jurgens told me personally that it was fanboy porn, and I'm like, okay, first off, let me see the receipts, and second off, Dan Jurgens is the guy that's known for killing Superman?
The thing is, that tweet was actually on. Dan Jurgens was tagged on that,
Mm-hmm.
and he didn't refute it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm
True.
pretty sure he probably did say that. And the
Which
fact
I'm
that
like,
he,
that right there, and this is the purpose of this episode. That is DC, the writers that DC holds up, that DC endorses. This is DC endorsing a personal attack on the fans, and I'm sorry that is shameful, because you could say it's just toxic fandom on the internet, on Twitter, that happens. But when when this happens and someone associated with DC just goes with it, or like doesn't refute it, or even just says like, or even attacks fans, I'm sorry, that is inexcusable.
right. I mean, to say that he was glad to retcon the relationship, and I mean, the Superman and Wonder Woman book, even at its lowest point with Tomasi, with the whole breakup thing and the truth arc, it still outsold Dan Jurgens' Convergence spinoff book.
Yeah, and by a lot. I mean, if that was supposedly where everyone wanted it to go, 30,000 sold. 30.
Yeah, with DC saying that it was like the most anticipated book, that even at SDCC, and just how they the interviews was saying how this is the unbreakable couple, this is the original power couple, they're the ultimate power couple. And it's like every marquee that Superman and Wonder Woman had, and they, you know, again, going from for the Instagram, the ultimate power couple or power couple hashtag or anything like that, even a caption, Superman and Wonder Woman are referenced. That is their marquee. That
That's
is what
what
you know.
that's the keywords for the couples like merch, even for today.
Right. So for DC to try to push that power couple marquee onto Lois and Clark, which it just like it never became a thing for them, you know, you can tell very much that it was a just mean-spirited marketing shift. And the
Exactly.
thing is, when they started marketing Clark and Diana together, it was just about Clark and Diana as a power couple. They never tried to throw Lois under the bus or anything like that. Yeah,
No.
you had bait click, like clickbait articles and things, but it wasn't official like articles
And you
that's
never
ran
had a
by
book.
DC.
You never had a book where they tried to turn one of Superman's suits into a sex object. Hmm.
Okay, that too. You know, to say that Superman and Wonder Woman, their relationship disrespects Clark and Diana, but yet you have these moments like this. Diana eating a rat. Diana, you
Liking
know,
eating a rat.
um,
Diana punching her mother in the face.
yeah. Or the fact that she admits or whatever to say, oh, I stopped, chasing terrorists that could possibly have killed people, to make out with a soldier. Or the fact of you're glorifying Diana romancing a soldier that essentially is, you know, in direct connection of her own sisters being murdered.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
and
So
it
it
hasn't.
doesn't work. But it's like so I'm like, where is the line of disrespect? Or when people speak poorly about characters, and I'm like, how is that not? And to your point, they never disrespected Lois in any of the books. They could have, or in any of the Superman Wonder Woman books, they easily could have. But no, she showed up. She actually had a pretty cool arc where she was a Psionic Brainiac. That was cool, but no, they didn't. I would have, but that's just me. But then we also get to, okay, I remember, man, it feels like such long ago when we found out about the Crisis on Infinite Earths clip. So my buddy Taladia, shout out to Taladia Plays, put out like, Jared, you gotta watch Crisis Part 2, and I'm like, oh, okay, actually it was Part 1. I'll check this out. So it was conjectured since War World that Clark and Diana were together, the Earth 2 Clark and Diana, because of the way she put his hand on his chest, and it's like, you're not I knew you weren't my Clark. So we were like, okay, fine. Then I send this to Brit, and she's like, don't play with me. Don't play with me. And then it's like,
because we didn't have the screenshots yet, so it's kind of like.
And then she got the screenshot. She's like, they're kissing. And then we see how the internet reacted.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so yeah, when that dropped, we was like, because people play a lot, and it is the thing about us as Superman and Wonder Woman fans. Our expectations are in the abyss low. So anything that happens, when it's brought up, it's kind of like, oh, it's really not there, or maybe it's just a joke. So that's basically where I thought was like, don't play with me. It's just a joke or whatever. But then when I got the screenshot from a friend, I'm like, wait a minute, this is real. Oh my
This is
God.
officially DC. Even though it's like a small scrap, you know what? I'll take it at this point. And the funny part is that was the most talked about part of the movie, not the plot, not anything like that. No, it was the kiss of Superman and Wonder Woman. That 40-second clip was all anyone talked about.
Right. But not only that, it's the fact that, like you said, Clark and Diana's Earth 2, their relationship was already implemented within the JSA movie. Mm-hmm. It was them, at the end, Clark says that he, alluded that he was inspired by Diana to go ahead and put on the suit and become Superman. And this is when Steve was dying. So, and for a moment, honestly, Diana forgot about Steve. And at the end, honestly, within the movie, Steve was asking Diana to marry him. And,
constantly. I'm like, this isn't as romantic as you think it is, dude. It's actually kind of cringe.
And it's the fact that it really didn't show her as a romantic thing until the end of him dying. Mm-hmm. So their relationship, it just didn't have that romantic vibe at all. It just showed that Steve was, as usual, yeah, he would be obsessed and lovesick towards Diana, but Diana didn't have that. She didn't showcase her feeling for Steve until he died. And honestly, even as if it was supposed to be like a tragic romance, Diana saying yes to marrying him, or the proposal, it kind of felt like she felt sorry for him that he's dying, so she'll accept it more than just.
So I'm like, it doesn't seem as good as you guys think it is.
Right. So with this, though, it seemed like she was written as far more showing her feelings, with the fact of being excited to see, another Superman and the S, and putting her hand on Earth 1 Superman's chest and saying, "My Clark." Then you had the kiss of them really showing that affection. And honestly, to say that, to show that Clark and Diana have this relationship, and Tomorrowverse, the producers have admitted that they wanted to have more JSA movies, and they also wanted to show a little bit more. But they decided to put what was important. Um, this relationship honestly has more development than Earth One, Clark and Lois.
Well, even that. Remember when? And this is one of the greatest things ever. This shows what DC's marketing is. So the image that they picked was an image of Earth 2 and Earth 1 Superman, but they called the Earth 1 Superboy, implying that he doesn't become Superman unless he's with Wonder Woman.
Right. That was kind of funny because and to say that he's only been Superman for like 3 years and you already have a crisis is wow. That is
Well, he must have, man, he's been on the job for 3 years and everything's blowing up in your face, literally.
right. So you have part two of Crisis, and Diana calls him my love. Again, this relationship is showing how they are pretty much very solidified as a couple. Even I saw a tweet saying that they're married, but I don't know if
Here's what they could do. You know, it'd be great. This probably won't happen, but you know, it'd be great as if part 3, we see their happy ending, and all we see is Clark on one knee in front of Diana. We know
like
what's
that.
happening, but it'd be like the last shot of Earth 2 is that.
Yeah, just them being happy together would be a very nice ending, you know, to end this verse, you know. I just don't want there to be a dumb death because you already had that with Steve, you know. Don't do it again.
And Diana's not dead. She was just teleported to the other dimension. I guarantee you they're not killing Wonder Woman in the Crisis. And
yeah, there's no way.
Guess what? We were right because look at the trailer.
And there's no way you can kill off the only Wonder Woman that you have. And what's even more crazy is that they implied a Wonder Woman in Earth 1 Wonder Woman, but she's nowhere to be seen. So it's kind of like, is that because, and when the producer had the interview, it kind of felt like what they wanted was Earth 1 Superman implied to be with Lois, even though they did not have any type of romantic relationship.
If anything, she was very antagonistic toward him in Man of Tomorrow.
So to have this done off screen again, this off screen stuff of Lois and Clark's relationship, and it's like, oh, they are together now. To call Superman and Wonder Woman's relationship obvious or predictable, but yet Lois and Clark are even more so obvious and predictable. Again, the contradictory. But going back to this, you don't have any type of development with that relationship, but Clark and Diana as Earth 2 does. I feel like,
real quick, I mean to cut you off, but I will say when they say obvious and predictable, I want to reply back. Thank you for admitting that they belong together, because if they're obvious and predictable, that implies that they are supposed to be together.
Right. Because if you're saying that Lois and Clark should always be together, isn't that the same thing of saying that they're obvious and predictable?
Actually, you know, it's kind of funny. Going back to that comment I read earlier, it's kind of funny. It seems like with the amount of SuperWonder kids, it seems mostly like it's a multiversal constant that eventually Superman gets with Wonder Woman.
Yeah, it's because because Lois and Steve, honestly, he is irrelevant. Just his character mostly works within World War II. He
or if you made a modern warfare book where it's him, Rick Flag, a bunch of Sergeant Rock, and then just have them do like modern military operations. They did this in the New 52. They had a book called Men of War, which is soldiers doing soldier stuff, fighting terrorists, but in a world with superpowers. That's cool.
Yeah, something like that. But their modern relationship doesn't work because Diana is going against the military. She doesn't need to be in a relationship with a government military guy. She doesn't. That goes against her whole fight. And just he doesn't really bring anything to her character. So with having him either already dead or as the father figure, big brother type that he was in Post Crisis, that's fine. That honestly, I don't care for them to be dead. They don't have to die, Steve and
No.
Lois. You can have them as either Lois can be independent like she was in New 52. She just in the background because she
If she's a
isn't.
strong, independent a female character, like everyone claims they do, have her be on her own. Or I've always
Yeah,
said, here's the way you fix Lois. You make it so she's a rival journalist trying to expose Superman's identity, so Clark has to be on eggshells whenever he's around her. There you go. With Steve, I brought that up. You can even have Steve and Lois get
as a
together.
couple.
If that were a book, it would be called United in Irrelevancy.
Huh, funny. But yeah, something like that. You don't have to have them dead just for Clark and Diana to be together
No.
because that is just not that's not what we want. You don't have to have that. Um so and yeah, if Lois was so independent and such a strong, female lead, she shouldn't have to be connected to Clark in a romantic
Oh,
sense
man.
to
Yeah,
have relevance.
exactly.
But
So
yet she does.
And then we get the other thing that's hated. The entire new 52 is then crapped upon because SuperWonder happened in it, even though it's kind of funny. And I know I put the heteronormity one there, but still. But I like how to say so boring and basic next to Clois. Clois is the most basic. What are you talking about? But anyway,
Well,
I've dealt with people that say, I want to wipe out the entire new 52. And I'm like, so you don't want the Court of Owls or Green Lanterns or anything good that came out of the new 52? Yes. And I'm like, that's just like, I want my way.
it very much is that wanting your way. And honestly, this tweet goes exactly where it should be.
By the
Um,
way, real quick, with the tweet on the right, this person said the series did some good at focusing on other characters, but they were given a series before New 52 too. Where was that Superman Wonder Woman series?
look, I saw more tweets of that. They basically wanted to belittle the relationship as so bad that, like, even couples, I would say, like Big Barda and Mr. Miracle, or the thing is that I wanted to bring up earlier and kind of forgot, but now,
Okay.
remembering,
Mhm.
is that you have Black Canary and Green Arrow. Black Canary was very much an independent character,
Mhm.
and she was leader of the JLA for a time.
Yeah, that was a good
She
run.
and she was just, very much, she was a lead female. But when they put her with Green Arrow, she got sucked into the Green Arrow franchise or whatever, and now she's his supporting character. But yet you see so many people advocating for that relationship. And not only that, but it showed that Green Arrow has cheated and on
Many times.
many times. And it was a borderline like emotional and kind of mental abuse in a sense
Mhm.
too. So for you advocating these relationships that have cheating scandals, that has emotional
Repeated
and mental
cheating
abuse,
scandals, mind you. Repeated cheating scandals.
yeah. And then the fact that the female lead gets swarmed, gets sucked into the male's um franchise. Even Barbara Gordon as Batgirl, she is now just a supporting character for Nightwing.
Even though
Um,
Barbara has led the Birds of Prey, so she's like Black Canary was on that team. Speaking of Gail Simone, even though when it's kind of funny, I was talking to Jit about this, but when you look at some of the stuff that Gail Simone wrote in Birds of Prey, some of it is great. A lot of it is very problematic.
Gail Simone is a writer that she was against Superman and Wonder Woman as a couple.
Mm-hmm.
She is very much a Black Canary and Lois fan than a Wonder Woman fan.
And yet she
And
wrote Wonder Woman.
but even her run for Wonder Woman kind of like it's not that good.
Mm-hmm.
So
I enjoyed it for what it was. There were a lot of holes in it. I'll give you that.
Yeah. So there was when she said that it doesn't work in anything, not even Kingdom Come and stuff like that. In Elseworlds, it's kind of like you are very closed minded,
Yeah, it's
and
like
she is the
no,
reason.
no.
Right. She is the reason why Mark Wade has this doubt about himself when writing Diana, or that he has this regret in a sense of Kingdom Come, because and in
Even
their
though it was more
relationship,
Alex Ross.
yeah, because of Gail and the Lois fans harassing him to
Mm-hmm.
apologize and all of that, and because of their relationship. And it's kind of like within the context of the book and the story, how is Diana? She is going through a lot of BS, and so many of her peers and everyone around her has turned, you know, into anti-heroes or given up completely. And the one person that she, really trusts the most and she valued has just turned into a recluse, and he has completely given up on life itself.
Mm-hmm.
And she is his moral compass. And she is the one that brings him out of that state of doubt and wanting him to become the superhero and the leader that he is supposed to be. How exactly is that disrespecting Diana? I have no idea.
Yeah.
Because
If anything, it's
she,
holding her up.
yeah, just because at the end they have a kid together, okay, that ending signifies them, you know, it's a rebirth type thing of a new generation of heroes that, can lead for a brighter future. That's basically what it is. And again, it signifies Clark and Diana as the mother and father of superheroes. That is what that means. So for Gail to say that Clark and Diana's relationship doesn't work in anything, as I said, that's very close minded. But she doesn't mind, writing Clark as just like so overly obsessed with Lois.
Well, speaking of close-minded, how about all right? So now we're going to get into the personal attacks. So first off, shame on you, not you, Brit. Whoever is commenting this BS, but the really stupid thing about this is that first off, this person that DMs you accuses you of being toxic. You're not. Your account of being toxic. It's not, because your account, the Diana and Cal Instagram account, is not never once bashed Lois. It's just posted cool SuperWonder art. And to this person that decided to crush the SuperWonder statue, I only have this thing to say to you. Thank you for in some way monetarily supporting SuperWonder.
Yeah, as we said before we started recording, if you buy the books and then you burn them, you just wasted $5 or so. You bought the statue and broke it. That was $200 out of your pocket down the drain, or
I wish it
however
was
much it
still
costs.
$200, but that's besides the point.
Yeah, within this time it was like 250, 300. So, okay. So when I get comments or messages, some of them is kind of like I share them to be like, look at this DS that, I that was sent to me. And at some points we can talk about it. We can have like a disgust feeling, get mad at it. But at the end of the day, it's kind of like we can laugh at it too.
Mm-hmm.
But then when you go so far as to threatening me, my family,
Or
you
make
know, or
the reason why we blocked, there's a lot of blocks that, yeah, there's curse words. There's straight up racist stuff in there.
yeah, when you go so far off the deep end of going down the path of racial slurs, that really sealed the deal of, why I don't really communicate even more openly that maybe I wanted to be within this fandom, because you come across a lot of people
Mm-hmm.
who blur the lines between fiction and reality.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a few fandoms that would go so far as to find a person online, and they would find their addresses and they would go to them and they would, harass them. Or like this, you would constantly send messages or comment being, um, doing this, being sending harassment, type messages. And like you said, with it being so much of this amount of hate, that should not be for fictional characters.
Mm-hmm.
I do not care about, at, at the end of the day, we are real people. These characters are fake. They do
Mm-hmm.
not make us, they do not or shouldn't break us. We are supposed to feel a positivity, to feel safe, to feel empowered, inspired, all of that with these characters. But these fandoms have made these characters so unlikable, so narrowed down in compartmentalized, and in a way it makes you feel very much shameful or so much regret of even trying to, you know, have this sort of investment into this hobby or into this, entertainment.
And honestly, Britt, I've thought about this for a while because I internalize people because I'm a Snyder fan as well. But I think part of it is, see, comics used to be this very not mainstream thing. They used to be like the in crowd was like the in crowd, if you will, was the comic book crowd. But then when it became more mainstream, these people seemingly lost what made them special. So I think what they want to do, they want to make these things as niche as possible, because then it makes them feel like they're a part of something like unique and like underground again.
But that's the thing. If these characters, they want them to, it when comic books was a thing that you would think, oh, you're just a nerd or something like that, and you would be
Mm-hmm.
made fun of. But now that it's become a mainstream thing, you want to go back to the idea that, oh, if you read a comic book, that you're just a nerd, that you get made fun of or something like that. So again, it's all of contradictory type stuff that's going on in very much bizarre world, bizarre logic, and to make people feel unwelcome that love these characters just as you do. We might have different ideas of the character, and yeah, headcanons are just fine, but you don't put them as facts. But again, just as Jid does, just have fun, you know, have you can talk about these characters without taking it so serious. And you, as a fan, you know, these characters have been around for decades, so there's evolution. Unless you're like Superman and Wonder Woman, that's kind of stagnant. But you, they have evolved 4 times and went through reboots, then went through modernizing their character, it, just stuff like that. And it's a multiverse. So there can be different iterations of this character. And with the different iterations, one iteration resonates with one fan, another iteration resonates with another fan.
And hey,
But
more
all in
power
all,
to you.
exactly, but all in all, we are still fans of that character one way or another. There's no right or there's no right or wrong. It's just really the only wrong in this sense is if you feel like this entitlement that you can tell another fan that they're not a fan and that they have disrespected the character, or that because they don't align with traditional thoughts on these characters that they're not a true fan. And that's the same thing. And again, DC is very much guilty of this, with Tomasi telling us that, oh, when New 52 died, that in bringing back post crisis, this is the Superman that you should love, that you should accept.
I'm
No,
sorry,
that's
you
not
don't
how
get
that
to tell
goes.
the audience what they should want. You just tell them you just find out what they want, then go for it. And by the way, real quick, you know what's kind of funny? I go back to, I'm trying to find this one Jurgens tweet. We gave the broad strokes in Action Comics, which made things fairly clear, and no romantic relation with Wonder Woman. That one for that, I can pinpoint where I was when I read that, because I read the original tweet when it came out. I was getting out of the movie Alien Covenant, and I was pissed off because crappy movie. I'm going through Twitter and I see this. That was the moment where I dropped DC up until 2020 when I started Comics League. That was the moment,
It's
because with that statement, that really tells me, okay, I'm not welcome in this fandom.
and also that showed how he that was the only thing, like he could have stopped it at saying the broad strokes.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that he emphasized that there's no romance with Diana, it really showed how that was his main goal. And that's pretty much why it's believable of him calling it fanboy porn, and that like his motivation of retconning New 52 was solely because of the
And
relationship.
what's funny,
And
I don't think he knows this, but DC cared so much about what Dan Jurgens wrote that the Wonder Woman writers re-retconned the relationship back into canon.
right. And also what he did, he was so confident that I believe it was a word balloon um interview podcast or whatever, but he basically let it be known that he and Rucka was talking about Superman and Wonder Woman's relationship and how they together was going to deal with it. So it was very much a collaborative effort to screw the relationship over.
And you know what, guys? You are the reason why you are the exact reason why Rebirth failed. Because I got news for you. If was the New 52 perfect? No, and Brit and I have said that. But you could have used Rebirth as the opportunity to like clean up a few things, like facts a few things in terms of canon and stuff, and retcon stuff back in that maybe shouldn't have been retcon. But you made it in your books a deliberate FU to the fans. I'm sorry. For one thing, Tomasi, I have no sympathy for what happened to Super Sons. You deserve it.
Yeah, anything that goes wrong with DC in general, I I'm not invested in DC at all. Not even Superman and Wonder Woman in a sense of how I used to be or wanted to be, because they're individual fandoms, and just the DC bandwagoners and everything like that, they feel like the hate train is so popular to hate things, especially on Twitter, because that is how, you get attention. If you spew hate, that is whatever people are looking for. And for you to just be contradictory and have these double standards for a relationship that, really DC decided to, ditch and push back because of the whining and because of a relationship that even Dan DiDio basically admitted, implementing stuff in Rebirth, that was the reason why we rebooted in the first place.
Yeah, it
So,
went back to the way the continuity was before. That led to DC almost getting shut down.
right. So, for so many people on Twitter, and it's all over forums, even comic forums, they are very scarce. Um, Reddit is a cesspool,
Well, yeah,
but you
and
have,
here's the story. I went through a lot of this, and you know what? My good friend Luffy went through this as well, because Luffy used to share the stuff on share our episodes on there for fun, but then he got bullied off. Imagine, and they admitted, I have the receipts. I should have put them in there. I'll put it in next week. But they admitted that they wanted to, their words, bully him off. And I'm like,
Yeah.
you are disgusting.
Yeah. To admit to purposely trying to, gatekeep, like you're admitting the gatekeeping, is you're way too comfortable with that. And that is something, again, DC is very much guilty of fueling. Because if you in story, basically villainize a relationship or a character, that is how the fandom will react. And, and they will treat that character or relationship
And the
just as you
fans of
are.
that, just like that. And that's the thing. I get it. If you could, because with, like you said, Jurgens could have said, hey, the broad strokes were in, we cleaned up the timeline a little bit like that. Okay, fine. I can say that. I can, but when you deliberately point that out, when you deliberately call it fanboy porn and basically use your books to say that's not true, that's not fair, or something like that, what do you think the fan base is going to react? How do you think the fan base is going to react? You moron.
Yeah. And within this time, what was so funny, and going back to the Crisis movie, you have the Crisis trilogy. If Clark and Diana have Earth 2, Clark and Diana have a happy ending in part 3, but part 1 and part 2, they you have that glimpse of their relationship. You have glimpses within comics of, I think that it was 2018, through, well, pretty much 2016 through 2018 was when DC completely just felt like, we're going to bash Superman and Wonder Woman's relationship to big up Jurgens and Rucka and Tomasi. But then 2018, once Bendis, 17 was Bendis, and then right after that, we start seeing some of Clark and Diana's relationship a little bit, not so much as a romantic sense, but their friendship again. So you had Wonder Woman Evolution, when Clark was basically Diana's moral compass within that story. And he, even the illusion or whatever of Hippolyta, she was basically saying to Diana, you are letting that Kryptonian get to your feelings or in your head or whatever. So you have that. Then you have the Wonder Woman Black and Gold issues, and you have where, again, Hippolyta asking Diana, is Clark her boyfriend, and stuff like that. Then, 2019, we had Frank Miller's Golden Child. And just bits and pieces, but also in 2016 we had Justice League Action too. And
where people try and say, oh yeah, they broke up in that. I'm like, no, they didn't. I watched that.
Right, they did not break up. What they wanted to say was that Clark and Diana's relationship, just because it wasn't a sole focus, it was like, no, that's not what that was about. It wasn't just a relationship. It wasn't a show about their relationship. It was just, they didn't have their kiss, but they were still together. Like, that just shows again how they weren't watching the show, but complained about it. And that reminds me of my adventures with Superman. I have issues with that because, first of all, it's just a straight up ripoff of all popular animes, and not only that, but it's doing anime tropes, like the most basic of tropes.
And the characters are also designed very poorly.
Very poorly, and just ripoffs. Supergirl's design is Android 18. Like, is a blatant ripoff of Android 18, and this is honestly ridiculous. But also the melodrama and knowing, like I said, if you want to say that Clark and Diana's relationship is predictable or obvious, in the first episode, they didn't even know each other but like a few hours, but all of a sudden Clark and Lois are so in love or whatever. That there's no build up, it's all rushed. Then you have trying to create drama between them, but it only lasts for like 5 minutes and then they're back to supposedly all lovey-dovey. But uh, if you deep cut the relationship, Lois is very manipulative and she lies a lot. And then this Clark, he's young, but it just feels like he's very much what Twitter tries to make Superman be, is like this himbo. And it's in a way of being kind of disrespectful because he isn't like just this puppy dog, this lovesick puppy. He isn't. So turning him into like this soft himbo golden retriever type character, his kindness isn't just that. And also, the producer and the writer did say that she prefers Burns' whole.
Well, that's
Uh,
concerning for a lot of reasons.
well, she did have Jor-El, the hologram,
Mm-hmm.
configured to only call him Clark.
Oh,
So
God.
yeah, so again, you are, and I believe that isn't like Krypton and the Kryptonians like terrorists or something like that.
Some of them are, and I'm like, oh God. Yeah, it's like
Yeah,
the Kryptonians are gonna. It gets worse. Kryptonians are apparently intergalactic conquerors in the Superman, my Adventures of Superman. But
yeah.
I,
So
I'm.
again, you're turning.
Mhm.
So again, you're turning his alienness into a bad thing, to where he is just Clark and wanting to just be normal or whatever. And even Lois, she makes um these remarks. I think it was the last episode, where he asks her how does she feel about him not being normal. And she doesn't answer the question. She answers him with a question, with saying, how do you feel about me being just a human? And so he answers with her saying how perfect she is. And it's kind of like, you know, when Clark and Diana have this conversation about being not being normal, or normal, they actually have a deep conversation about who they are and understanding. They aren't going to ask a question with a question to avoid it, knowing that there's a problem, and you're basically trying to make this romance, this just like this epic romance, but it's glossing over the inherent problems that it has.
Yeah,
And
exactly. And
I
more on that, actually, because we could actually do an entire episode talking about my adventure with Superman. So that actually works really well for a topic. But anyway, so now we're going to transition into our final our new segment that we're going to implement. And we're going to shout out. So at the end of every episode from now on, we're going to shout out members of the community who are positive, or who are, quite frankly, even if they don't ship Superman and Wonder Woman, are just nice people. So number one is Jid, as usual from last week. Also Jordan. We don't praise Jordan enough. So this is to you, dude.
right. They like I said, it's nothing but good vibes with Jiv, because it it's like Twitter is just full of hate. And when you see a funny tweet about these characters, it pulls you back into, okay, this is why I like this kind of stuff. I like the
Mhm.
goofiness. I like the um just the escape that it's supposed to provide. And then with Jordan, he comes in with the receipts of, fighting against the lies that so many people, want to say about Clark and Diana's relationship. I mean, even to a point of saying that it's gross just because they aren't with Lois and Steve. It's not
Mhm.
because they are like what Burned had Clark kissing a 14-year-old Diana. It's not um the fact that Diana, you know, basically R-worded Clark in somebody else's body or something like that. It it No, there's nothing gross about the relationship. It's just you don't like it. And that's fine. You don't have to like it. But to over exaggerate your hate and put out lies about the relationship and take things out of context, or or things like that, there's no need for that. So with Jordan, what he does, like I said, he brings receipts.
Mhm.
And there would be, someone trying to be smart and basically like dissect what he's put. And there was one where he was talking about um, the encyclopedia
Mhm.
of when it says that Clark and Diana they have this special understanding, and they are both equals, and this physical, like, they are powerful. And so that one person took that word of being powerful, and it's like, see, that is what the relationship is all about. It's like, no, that's not what that means. Yes, they have these special abilities, they are strong, but at the same time, they have to repress that, reduce themselves to, you know, try to have the accepted norm. But at the same time, they are reducing themselves, and that's not a good thing. They are hiding who they are. So together, they are able to just be free 100%.
Yeah,
So
and not
what's
only
wrong with
that,
that?
yeah, there's nothing wrong. Not only that, I'll be getting into Twitter debates with people. Then all of a sudden, within 5 seconds, here comes Jordan to comment, and I'm like, it's like he has a sixth sense for this stuff. So I'm like, Jordan, I love you, brother. Thank you for being my like backup. I really appreciate that,
It's not like
brother.
that. Okay, so when I see, because how Twitter timeline is, it's kind of like, now it's when there's a long train of conversation, it's like whatever post, I guess, it will come up first thing on your timeline. So, we talked about this. So when I, you know, get on Twitter or something, and I see like this long train of responses, and I've told you, I've gone to them and I'm like, why are y'all going back and forth with this person?
Yeah, I
And
know.
it can be like,
But you see, Brit, the thing is, it's the thrill of battle that.
and it- it's Jordan does end up getting the last word.
Well,
Um,
because when you bring receipts, there's not that much that person can say.
right. And he has been very honest that he's been blocked. He was blocked by Tomasi.
Oh, I'm sure,
Um,
because Tomasi doesn't like to be challenged. That's why.
right. Actually, the whole Superman and Wonder Woman fandom has been blocked by Tomasi.
Well,
Yeah,
I'm sure. I'm very sure. Even though we gave him as much of a chance as possible with his run of Superman, Wonder Woman, but he intentionally crapped on us. So I'm like, why are
right.
we going to give you any determination? And again, why am I going as much? It's kind of funny as I was going to put all the books on for a good Ghost Machine on my pull list to check them out. Tomasi's the one I'm like, nope.
Yeah. And also, one more thing that I want to say
Mhm.
with what's so funny is that, the whole thing about this fandom, and with you though, gotta shout out to you too.
Oh,
It's just JJ and J. That's
oh,
so funny to me.
it's all Jesus.
Because, like I said, I mostly showed my appreciation to these characters through writing with the fan fictions. And the support that I got from that was really like, okay, I'll continue it on. But there was a moment, and I told you, that I just wanted to give it up. Like the writing, the Instagram page, and everything like that. Because just the whole negativity, it became overwhelming. and too much. And I don't do good with negative.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just like, I'll just give that up because, again, it's a hobby, you know, and the way the real world is and just, personal things, I don't have time for that. Like, I don't know these people that want to argue, be argumentative. I don't know them from Adam. You know, you don't know who, what I look like. You don't know me personally as, as who I am. So how are you judging me by fiction that, no, I don't vibe with that at all. But that time when you DM me on Discord and you said how, you love special bonds and just that positiveness that we continue going back and forth talking about the story and then
Well,
talking about more things and then when you invited me to start this show, and yeah, it took a year. It took a very long
it
time
took a
for us to
very
get.
long time. It took a very, it was a year in the making, and Brit and I think we're both like blown away with this show is exploding.
Yeah, and just for that and how you basically helped rejuvenate, even though again, I still not invested in DC and Superman and Wonder Woman as characters anymore. It's still the fact of the fandom though. And when I got that message a couple of days ago, um, it kind of 100 steps back of how I felt like just drop everything.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, with you, with other fans, it just felt like, you know, you want to challenge me like that, and I don't back down from challenge.
No,
I'm gonna
you
keep
do not.
going.
You're my bulldog. You're my bulldog,
Yeah,
Brit.
I'm going to keep going. And to see the amount of followers and, you know, constant on the Instagram, to know that we are at, well, hold on, let me see. So we are at 63,000 followers. And for people to be surprised at that, that a fandom can have that's supposedly not liked or doesn't have the support. It's
That's the
like,
other reason why you get those DMs, Brit. They're threatened.
right. And yeah, we're going to accept that challenge. And
Yeah, why not?
we're going to keep voicing, you know, how we feel about these characters and the truth of this, what this fandom as a whole represents. Like I said, this fandom as Superman and Wonder Woman, as individuals and as a couple, no matter your age, no matter your ethnicity, your race, no matter your sexual orientation, you are represented. You
Yeah,
are all welcomed within this community because that is who Superman and Wonder Woman is. That is the relationship of outsiders coming together to understand each other and feel that comfort. But
exactly. And the thing on my side is I want to give a shout out to Brit, as a matter of fact, because here's the well, first off, here's the thing about Comics League is that the interesting thing when I looked at our analytics is that it was so we recently for last month we hit 1K subscribers, and it's one of those things where I was looking at it, and Lad and I had like outline like, okay, so when do we think based on my growth that I'll get like 1K and fully monetized? That was the end of this year. But what I noticed is that when SuperWonder Legacy started and like exploded like it did, that really just poured jet fuel on this whole channel and like exploded. So first off, thank you for that. The other thing
you're
is
welcome.
like, huh?
I said, you're welcome.
Oh, well, yeah. Well, the other thing is like, look, the first time a video of mine really exploded was when I made the video. Admittedly, that the title may not have been the best, but it said Lois Lane is worthless. Well, there you go. But I got a lot of hate for that, and That was before I had the show with Brit, so it was kind of shaking. But see, the thing is like I find that like a lot of the hate is like a lot very much easier to manage now that I have a partner, because at least Brit, you know as well as I do what we go through as SuperWonder fans. Doubly for me, because if they want to label me as a black sheep, I'm doubly a black sheep because I'm also a Snyder fan. So I lose on both counts. But
Oh yeah.
but it's like having a partner to deal with this with me who understands. It makes this so much easier to go through. So thank you, by the way.
Yeah, of course. I mean, again, we're partners with this, and that is what we are. I guess, like I said, I just wanted to write fan fictions, but to actually speak, I didn't see that. And this platform that created gave me a platform to realize, for myself, I have a lot to say. And it has helped me also just be a little bit more aware too. And again, just express even more so. If you don't see it in my writing, you will hear me actually say it, and
Exactly.
And I think we did good with holding back, the words that we wanted to say. And like you said, I don't.
You did great, as a matter of fact. And watch, as soon as I said that, she's gonna start cursing.
I mean, bleep. In my mind, I was saying beep beep like this entire time, and my pauses too. It was very much going like a hamster on a wheel. Was a lot of words, because this topic, we shouldn't have to have this. You can stay in your own corners and be happy. That's it. Don't try to poke a bear. Don't try to be antagonistic. If you are supposed to be a fan of these characters, why are you saying, such mean-spirited things? For someone to have, and I think I know it is, with people are so obsessed with having the engagement farming and the amount of followers they can get, the amount of likes. But for you to say that if you ship Superman and Wonder Woman, I hope you never have a happy day in your life.
And I'm like, well, joke's on you. I always have a happy day.
Right. For you to say that you don't understand these characters, or you
don't read comics, proceeds to ignore my entire background.
Right. I mean, that is so funny when you take a picture of your back of your
So here's my strategy. Whenever anyone tells me that, I send them that and say, try again.
And then they still want to challenge you and say, like,
hey, how about you read those? And I'm like, I have. Everyone except for the shelves, the two shelves, clearly labeled to read.
Yeah. So it's kind of like, okay, so you are just going to have a bookshelf full of comics that it is just basically for decorations. Yeah. So you've never
have that too.
It is kind of crazy that like, they want to gaslight you, and like I said, to say, when you said that with Laffy, to tell him that they purposely wanted to kick him out, bully him into never being on
bully, your words. And these are Superman fans, mind you.
You want to bully, and Superman is against bullies. Wonder Woman is against bullies.
If you're bullying people because they have different opinions about comic books, you are not a comic book fan. I'm gonna come out and say that. If you are attacking people just because they ship Superman with another character or have an opinion that's different, I'm sorry, you are not a fan of these characters.
Exactly.
But anyway, so I think that's a good place to leave this episode. This was a fun one. I can't believe we had to do this, but all right. Next week's episode, Brit and I are going to do a live Q&A where you can come in and ask us anything you want to ask us. So be hyped for that. We're approaching episode 52, which makes a year of doing the show. Hell yeah. And for that episode, we will be going deep dive into the entirety of the new 52, not just Superman and Wonder Woman. So there you go. We have a lot of stuff to look forward to. So Britt, you have any stories you want to tease us with?
Of course, I'm wrapping up the Hippolyta and Hera story. Finally, it's like every time I think I'm done with that, it's like, no, I want to add more to it. And it's all because of you, Blood of Zeus. Like, really, I love Hera as a character. Oh my God.
Yes.
So now I am thinking and brainstorming for more of Hera and Austria adventures.
Oh, that's gonna be fun.
Yeah, so it's gonna be really fun to see Austria more with her godly grandmother, and not only that, but also with Hippolyta too. And then I have the Athens story and Shelter chapter 2. I can't wait because I'm hoping to get my points from that. And just
Oh, trust me, I'll be getting some points at the end of this.
yeah, I know. And but I think I did good for this past week or so.
We'll see.
I've done good. Um and yeah, just any story that I have that's kind of been neglected still. I am slowly but surely getting those chapters done. But I just can't wait to share the Shelter chapter and just this whole world building that they're doing of the Shelterverse. And I can't believe we have a
We have
verse
a
of our
universe
own.
now because there's so many different stories we have going.
I mean, and especially the story that we talk about, spoiler, non-spoiler, is story 3. So we just call it that. And it's just so fun when we can go from story 1 connecting to story 2, connecting to story 3. And especially story 1 connecting to story 3, and how the emotional upheaval that honestly you have me every time.
Oh, I'll have you at the as soon as we stop recording this.
The fact of, like, I can be in the middle of the store and then get a DM and it's kind of like, oh, this long text, and it's kind of like you telling me this part of the story, and I'm like, are you serious? So I'm boohooing or crying, in the middle of the store, and it's kind of like, why? Why do you
Because it's
pick
fun.
those
That's
moments?
why. Because it's fun.
You pick so to but overall, it's so much fun to be creating this world. And again, that is what this is about. And DC, whatever, they can continue on pandering to the toxic, fans, or, fueling that. But on this side, where you're having fun with the fans, with the community of Superman and Wonder Woman, and creating this, world that we can't wait to share with
Hell
all
yeah.
the other fans that have given us so much support.
Oh yeah, and as we always say, the Shelterverse is from us to you. It's to get these people their own DC universe they can enjoy. So stay heroic, everyone. Remember, Lois Lane is Lois Lane. She belongs to General Zod. So is the Maxibat for life.